Namaskar. There are widespread misconceptions about various types of yoga systems. First is they are mutually exclusive, no relationship, whatever. Second is that everyone can choose their yoga based on their preference, based on their choice. And third is that each yoga system which is described in Bhagavad Gita is optional. This misconception can be easily dissipated by reading Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna describes 6 yoga systems in an hierarchy. In this video, we will discuss the ladder of yoga and how higher levels in the ladder includes a lower level also, and why a level is prescribed for a particular person based on his previous level of progress. So it's not a one solution which fits for all, but it's a solution based on your level. So Krishna describes a yoga ladder with different rungs which represent progressively higher levels of understanding. And on the lowest level, an individual is solely interested in materialistic enjoyment and has no spiritual inclination. One stage higher is Karma Kanda, where one still desires materialistic things for himself, but now he tries to achieve it via religious or the things which are prescribed in Vedas, like performing yajna, giving dana, etc. And when one realizes the futility of material enjoyment, they progress to something called Sakam Yoga, where one begins to offer a portion of his results to God, but still maintains selfish motivation. So most of the things for him and very little for God. So the next stage, which is Niskam Yoga, one accepts only necessary things for him and offer everything else to God. So this is the topmost stage of Karma Yoga. Those who progress to this level of spirituality break free from all the karmic implications and become peaceful and liberated. So let's try to understand this from the references from Bhagavad Gita. As Krishna says in 12.8, Mayyeva man asadva mayi buddhi niveshaya. Just fix your mind upon me. Me means Krishna, and engage your intelligence in me is Krishna. Thus, you will live in me, always without a doubt. This is the topmost. And then Krishna further goes on to describe the other methods. As Krishna says in 2.39, this is to support the first one. Esha te bihite sankhya buddhi yoga tvamashruno buddhya yukto yaya partha karma bandham prahasyasi. So here he says, thus far I have described this knowledge to you through Sankhya, which is analytical study. Now listen as I explain it in terms of working without fruitive results. O son of Partha, when you act in such knowledge, then what happens? You can free yourself from the bondage of works. And this is what Niskam Karma Yoga is. And he further says in 2.49, Turena yavaram karma buddhi yoga dhananjaya buddhyo sharanam anvicha krupana falahetava. O Dhananjaya, keep all undesirable activities far distant by devotional service, and in that consciousness surrender unto me. And those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work, they are misers. They are not very intelligent people because they don't understand the bigger truth. They only want to enjoy everything for themselves. And wait, if you thought we just translated Bhakti Yoga to devotional service, this is intentional, as Krishna makes it clear in 12.8 as we just discussed. So this is the thing and this is the topmost thing. So if you are unable to, then Krishna suggests further a level down in 12.9. Atha chittam samadhatum na shaknosi mayi sthiram abhyasa yogena tato mam ichaptum dhananjaya. If you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, because mind is very frivolous, very flickering, then follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, like performing arti, doing other practices of bhakti, and in this way develop a desire to attain me. And further he says, Abhyasapya samarthosi mat karma paramo bhava madartham api karmani kurvan siddhim avapsasi. So this is the next shloka where he says, if you cannot practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga, then just try to work for me. Me means Krishna. Because by working for me, you will come to the perfect stage. So this is the alternate he presents, and this is a level down. And if you are still unable, then he says, Eitedapi asaktosi kurvam mad yogamastira sarva karma falatyaga tatah kurah yata tvaman. So if you are however unable to do even this, and if you are unable to work in consciousness of me, then try to act giving up all results of your work and try to be self-situated. And thus, Krishna explains the ladder in this verse, Shreyo hi jnanam abhyasa, jnana dhyanam vishishyate, dhyanat karma phalam tyagat, tyagat shantiranantaram. So he is going levels up and down. So if you cannot take to this practice, then engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge. So knowledge is the lowest here. And then he says further, better than knowledge, however, is the meditation or the Ashtanga Yoga, Dhyan Yoga practices. And better than meditation is the renunciation of the fruits of action. By such renunciation, one can attain peace of mind. So this is important. He clearly sets the hierarchy here. And Krishna begins by saying that fixing the mind into him is the best path, and if one is unable to do that, then following regulated practices of bhakti like worship in temple, do bhajan, kirtan, participate in the activities of Bhakti Yoga is the next best. However, if one is unable to do even those regulative practices or practices of bhakti, then working for Krishna is the next best. And if one is unable to do that, then just by doing their social duty without aspiring for result is the next best. So this is how Krishna goes ladder. He goes a level down. And if one is unable to do that, then the practice of austerity and meditation is the next best. So, but if someone is not even able to do that, then they must cultivate the knowledge as the last option. Knowledge is very essential. So Krishna says, Gyanam pavitram, nahi jnana sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate. So a clear hierarchy of the practices is prescribed here, and we'll summarize it for you. So these are the 6 steps. Gyan Yoga is the lowest, then Ashtanga Yoga, then Karma Yoga, which is the next higher, then working for Krishna, which is also Karma Yoga, but that is Niskam Karma Yoga, then regulated Bhakti Yoga, which is the next higher, and then finally the full absorption in Krishna is the highest, topmost. So this is the ladder which Krishna describes in Bhagavad Gita, and we have kind of tried to summarize it for you. And this is not that Krishna mentioned it once, he mentioned it several times in Bhagavad Gita, and that's where we'll bring it for you. We'll just have few instances from Bhagavad Gita where Krishna mentions, like in 2.49 he says this same thing. So Krishna says in 2.49, Durena hyavaram karma buddhi yoga dhananjaya, and this is very important. So Durena hyavaram karma buddhi yoga dhananjaya, this is important. And further he says in 9.34, which we have not discussed. So he says in 9.34, man manabhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Similar thing he also says in 18th chapter, so we'll come to that. Engage your mind always in thinking of me, become my devotee, offer obeisances unto me, and by doing this and by worshipping me, being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. So this is the conclusion which Krishna says. Also there are several other places where he says, like he says in 12.8, Mayeva mana asadva mayi buddhi niveshaya, and also in the 9th chapter he repeats the same thing, and he repeats same thing in 18th chapter also, which is the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, where he says manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Same verse as it comes in 9th chapter. The second line is different, but still the verse is same. So the purport is the same. So Krishna everywhere says that final thing, the topmost thing is engage your mind and in me, which is Buddhi Yoga. That's why it comes in 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Engage your mind always in thinking of me, become my devotee, and thus you will come to me without fail. And with this being said, let's discuss which path to choose then. So by now it should be very clear, but then also let's try to understand. The preference leans toward the higher paths, as Krishna clearly says, despite their greater difficulties. Sometimes the prescription of a lower path is necessary. So if one is unable to, then he obviously prescribed lower path. And because not everyone can follow higher one, it is important to recognize that these paths cater to different individuals, and there is no room for false pride for those who attempt the higher path. So one who is in higher path should not think that the other paths are useless. So that's what Krishna says. And because Krishna himself prescribes the lower path and all other paths to different individuals based on their level. So given the increasing challenge along these paths as we go higher up, when someone embarks on the higher path, it is expected that they have either mastered the lower path or are committed to perfecting alongside the higher one. So if you are following one yoga system, you have to master others also, or at least have a desire. If someone whimsically disregards or discards the lower path they neither excel in their chosen path, which is the higher path, and nor reach the topmost pinnacle of the bhakti or higher path, which Krishna describes. The principle applies universally, like climbing a ladder, or let's say, or take an example of studies. So if you are doing higher education, one is generally expected to have completed their primary education, while some may simultaneously pursue both primary and higher education, which is okay, good. Some brilliant students can do that, but the latter cannot be deemed as complete without the foundation of primary education. So if you are doing college and if you don't know the basics of the lower grades, then you are basically not eligible. So similar way, life's path is structured in a ladder, and if one claims to have completed the higher, then he is supposed to know the lower, and he is supposed to have perfected the lower. So hopefully this made your understanding better on the various yoga systems as we discussed about it today, as it is described in Bhagavad Gita. So we didn't bring our own perspective, but we try to kind of bring what Bhagavad Gita says, and hopefully it cleared some misconceptions. So thank you very much for listening till here, if you are still in the video, and we'll meet in the next one. Thank you.